Hi, how's it going? This is Resident of Collinwood for YouTube, back with another Dark Shadows video for you guys and gals. This is episode 63 of Dark Shadows to react and review. This episode's written by Art Wallace, directed by John Sedgwick. Here we go. Let's get to this. There's the Great House. Oh, now we got a different view of the Great House. We got the door Victoria Winters went into. We haven't seen that view in a while. It's 9 o'clock at night. Vicky's talking about Elizabeth, how she hasn't left the ground in 18 years. And speaking of Elizabeth, who's coming from the second floor down the steps, Joan checking the grandfather clock. And they cut to the blue whale. And it's Joe Haskell and Carolyn. You know, it's really interesting how episodes of Dark Shadows set up the next episode in every way. And that's what a lot of these episodes do really well. Even if, like, a character you see in this episode might not be in the next one, the characters who need to be in that episode are there. So Carolyn asked Joe, what's been in my head? And Joe says, a dead man, Bill Malloy. And yeah, I think, great opening, by the way, that's the opening. Nancy Barrett's turn away and facial features confirming what Joe is saying is true is really criminally underrated as an opening for this episode. It's done in the blue whale. You got the loud music playing, and instead of saying a ton of words there, she asked him a question. You see Joe's not there now. He's coming back. You see the drinks. She's got ginger ale. He's got a beer. Oh, sorry, beer. So yeah, Joe is saying he was gonna try to stop Carolyn think about Bill Malloy. I don't think that's something you can just stop from somebody from thinking about. I think we've all experienced, whether it's someone we've loved or someone we've known who died. It's not something that leaves your mind that easy. Yes, I sorry, I got confirmation about something. I got confirmation about something. Give me a second, guys. I'll be right back. All right, guys. Sorry about that. I'm back. Carolyn says she can't understand what happened. Joe said he fell in the water and drowned. That's what Joe believes. I think this is a great examination of, look, a fictional character, when they believe something, it doesn't mean that they're stupid. It just means they believe what they think happened. Because they can't picture somebody killing that decent of a man in Bill Malloy. And how Carolyn and Joe are dancing the blue whale. What? No shaking the hips? Okay, never mind. They're moving. They're, uh, That grandfather clock is ticking away. And here's Matthew Morgan, speaking of. I like how they're playing the eerie music as Matthew's walking into the drum. And there's Liz just sitting there. He sets the wood down by the fire. And Matthew's going to walk back over. Yeah, so she's alright. He tells her, think about Mr. Malloy won't bring him back. No shit. If there's anything I can do. Anything. So Matthew says there were no marks on Bill Malone when he first saw him. He's lying, of course. And Joan goes over and opens when it. We're getting camera views we've gotten before. But the way John Sedgwick is sort of doing this camera work, you see the camera move even after the actors have sort of stopped moving and they're standing there, they're just talking. Then Joan looks back and then the camera moves again. It's a great cut by the production company. It's a great move by John Sedgwick. Really good. You guys got to watch this stuff. This camera work is fucking awesome. It really is. Why would you be asking Marcia on his body? Well, about that. I'm pausing the video real quick of the Dark Shadows episode. In this frame, you see now you see something really interesting. There's Matthew Morgan, and there's Joan Bennett. And I like how they're shooting this outside the window, and you see their faces. Joan is looking away from Matthew. Elizabeth is looking away from Matthew, and Matthew is standing there talking. And you can see one of the Collins family portraits in the background. Really, really, really well done. Again, by Dan Curtis Productions and John Sedgwick. So the sheriff. Matthew thinks everything was going as it was. And the sheriff. Elizabeth says, I don't think the hounding will ever stop, ever. Sure it will. As soon as you find Bill Malloy's murderer, who just happens to be standing behind you. Now, they do they do a really good job, first of all, because you still have a murder mystery here going on. They do a good job of not just talking about, not having the normal people talk about the usual suspects, I'll say, talking about Bill Malloy's murder. You have Carolyn and Joe in this episode coming back from their day together, and it's nighttime, and they're at the Blue Well, and the discussion is about Bill Malloy. And that's the heavy of the conversation in the previous episode with Bert, Sam. Also in this episode, you have obviously Joan Bennett talking to Matthew about Bill Malloy, because Matthew says if the sheriff feels it was an accident, then the questions will be over. And Joan Bennett's character, Elizabeth, says the questions will never be over. People will never stop asking questions. She's more meaning Bert Devlin because Bert feels that Bill Malloy was murdered. He has the right feeling. And already, I just love the camera work we're getting in this episode. I love how Joan Sedgwick pulled back the camera as they got up to dance. Now, there's something I didn't like. I didn't like how they, because I don't think they were exclusively shooting the full dance sequence there, because they pull the camera back and there's sort of a beam in the way. It's not a great pullback job completely, but the start of it is. It's just they cut too far back because they're cutting to another location. I'm not trying to complain. It's just most likely, and yeah, it's over. You know, here the door opens, and who is it? It's Maggie Evans. Maggie inside the Bluebell. My God! She asks if her dad's there. No. And now they're sitting down. So they shoot one dance sequence between Joe and Carolyn in this episode. Maggie, hi kids. This is my dad's exclusive film. I love that line by Catherine Lee Scott. It's so good. It's criminal. Carolyn tells Maggie they've been roaming, her and Joe have been roaming the countryside, trying to forget things. And have you seen Burke Devlin? No. Sure, her dad will be. That's an interesting thing. Where does Sam Evans go? Actually, we know that answer. Maggie does not know that Sam Evans has went to Burke Devlin's hotel room to talk to him and confront him a bit. He's not there now, but that's where he did go. I like this line here. It reminds me of something Burke said. What Burke said about the beginning and end of the world. And Carolyn says, "What do you have against Burke?" And Maggie says, "The end of the world." That's what I have. I like how Joe says that Maggie has Devlin been hounding your family, and Maggie says that's what gets me. He's after your family, not mine. And Carolyn's quick to jump to burst. He's not after my family. You keep thinking that, girlfriend. Keep thinking that. He is though. He's like the shadow after a criminal. He won't stop until he gets his man. Unfortunately, Burke's not going to shoot him. Can you imagine? Now, here's what I mean. They're shooting the scene again at the window, and they start off to the right, and the camera is panning left like it did before to shoot the window sequence at the Great House. Great job at that, and how they're moving the camera to get capture this conversation, and you can still hear Matthew as the camera is still coming in. It's not all the way in yet. It's not. You can see them, and Joan even has Joan's stance is a tad different. Her face isn't as out the window. She sort of her shoulders on the wall. She's looking out in a different direction this time instead of looking straight. She's looking to what would be her left of it, but she's not looking toward Matthew. She's looking more towards, I would say, the driveway or the pathway comes up to the house. Burke Devlin will still be part at this moment of business. She's like, yeah. And Matthew Morgan's like, he's got no right. I love how Joan turns around to talk to him. Like, sorry, I had to turn it up there. There's nothing any of us could do to stop it. Don't you worry, Matthew. You know, it's, you're a good friend. And Matt, I love how David I love how Thayer David stops after he leaves drunk and looks back and the camera catches it. Great job. Just criminally underrated the way the actors do that and the camera's right there. It's not a close up, but it doesn't matter. It's still such a great fucking job. There's pounding on the door. No, it's not my door. Maggie Evans. Maggie Evans knocks like the police. No, not really. I wonder. I wonder if Kathleen Lee Scott ever thought about being a cop. She played. Did she play a cop before? No, I don't think she did. I don't know. I don't know her whole career. She's anxious to talk to Roger Collins, and she comes in. This is Maggie's first trip up to Collinwood, and she's like looking around. Drawing rooms in there, Miss Evans. I love how Joan goes towards the steps and she looks back at Maggie like, "Wait, what does this girl want with my brother?" And then she doesn't go up the steps. It's just such a great acting job by Joan to do this. I know she's told to do it, but still. Miss Evans, you scared me. You went out. You said Evans, sorry. Yes, sir. So this is her first time in Collinwood. Because Maggie admits in this episode she's never been in a quarter mile of there. She's lived in Collinwood her whole life. Until this episode. It's believable too. Kathleen Lee Scott sells that so good. I love how Jen's like, why not ask your father? She has asked her father. So Maggie asked Elizabeth, do you know that Burke accused, she goes, yeah, I know what he's saying. It's like, but, so I like this here, but there seems that she doesn't know. She doesn't know why she asked any of them there. And she honestly does, to her, it's like, I don't know why he called somebody. What would you like me to say, Miss Evans? See, Maggie tells Elizabeth what she told. Elizabeth's like, I've been aware of he's saying that. By the way, when I get to episode 70, I'm going to do an overall review of the first two seasons. I think that's fair. Elizabeth is not basically. She pretty much is telling her, "Hey, ask your dad. He'd be able to answer these questions." And I don't think Elizabeth is wrong to say that either. I mean, let's see if he's in his room. Maggie asks to see Roger, and Elizabeth says, I'll see if he's in his room. And the grandfather clock is ticking away. I like how they're doing it. It's like time is ticking, and I love the pullback here. This is a great pullback shot of Maggie Evans standing in the full, like standing right there, just outside the drawing room, and just looking around, like, oh my god, look at this place. Here's Matthew Morgan. Can you imagine Thayer David? Imagine Thayer David as Dr. Sam Loomis. He's asking for Burke. He's nothing for you to worry about, Carolyn. Yes, she is. He's like, everything's gonna be alright. Tell your mother this. I'd like to know what you mean. Come along. The whole business. This is like the worst place to attempt to kill somebody. A public bar that has a good bit of patrons in it. Includes Carolyn and Joe. Carolyn's like, he seems strange. Joe's like, don't worry about the bears. And Joe's like trying to get her out of here. She comes back too. She comes back. And I love the look on Thayer David's face. It's like, I'm ready to hurt somebody. It's so good. Know what you need for this scene here? Some LL Cool J. Mama said knock you out. That's what you need. That's there's not gonna be punches exchanged. He's gonna try to strangle him. I wonder if they had thought about choreographing a literal fist fight. Like they choreograph a fist fight between uh well not just Burke and Joe, but Burke and Willie Loomis eventually. He's saying about how he warned Burt Devlin once. He did. But Joe take you home. He's accusing basically Burt Devlin of Bill Malloy's death. That's just the killer. That's just the actual killer throwing getting heat off him, and there's no real heat on him really. Just also shows you how mad Matthew really is too. That's a nut. It's this whole sequence here is criminally underrated because I mean we've all suspected Matthew Morgan is, but man, this episode really just is so good. The way Thayer David plays this character. Lewis says you can come back if you want to. I like how Liz is comforting Maggie. Hey, no person manages people the way Liz does. She's the best people manager ever. She's up there with Bobby the Brain. Actually she's the top of the list. Bobby the Brain. She's ahead of Bobby the Brain Heenan, Jim Cornette, and any other manager that ever existed. And yes, including Paul Heyman. She is. I implicate my phone. But she doesn't know. She doesn't know where her father factors into all of the events 10 years ago. That's what Maggie does. Maggie doesn't legitimately know, despite what Burke might think or what Burke thought. She's like, "Thank you." It's no kind of man you're dealing. She says Burke and her father used to be good friends. Friendship stand up. Burke is. You know, she says yes with the most straight face tone. Great, Joan is just so great, and I love Carolyn's reaction too. She's sort of sad that her mother said it, and you get Maggie leaving, and that's the end of the episode. Um, episode 64. We're gonna see a bit of a tussle. I I only have one complaint about that episode, and it's the pullback scene for the dance sequence. I just think that they could have. I get there's no real reason to shoot the dance sequence between Joe and Carolyn, but I mean they're not gonna have a bunch. They're gonna have some pretty miserable moments coming up here where Joe and her just break up, and I'd like to think that's the reason we get that shot too, because hey, these two aren't long for being a couple, and you sort of got that sense too when you first sort of met Carolyn too. I think you could really see Carolyn. In many ways, Carolyn is very young. She doesn't want to settle down with somebody, especially Joe Haskell. And if she likes Joe, she thinks Joe's a great person, but there's a difference between thinking somebody's a great person and they're a perfect match for you specifically. Um, I also, where I do love the camera angles, is the Great House, the window, the pullback where Maggie's just standing there all alone. It gives us. We've had feelings of isolation before in Collinwood, with Elizabeth, with Victoria, and now we get it with Maggie, somebody who doesn't live at that house. Really, really great job storytelling wise with your camera here with John Sedgwick. So, and again, Thayer David steals this episode in every way. He's just sitting there at the Blue Whale. He's ready to put on some hurt. I I know we're gonna get the tussle, and it's not a big scene. I just don't. And I get they're setting that up for the next episode and all. I just because it doesn't. It's not something that lasts terribly long. It's just something they wanted for the next episode that they saved for the next episode, which is next. I'm not complaining that it wasn't in this episode. I just that would have been the cherry on top for that episode. Maybe it would have been too much. I think the reason they don't, though, too, not just to save it for the next episode, is Joan's line about Burke. When Carolyn says, "Do you believe Burke Devlin is capable of murdering someone?" She goes, "Yes, I do." And it gives, Joan Bennett is such an accomplished actress. And both her facial features and Carolyn's, the way Nancy Barrett hangs her head and walks away, sort of sad that her mom said that, and the closing on that is the real cherry on top of that episode. So I understand why they didn't have the short tussle that they're going to have in the next episode. It's really, really great that I think they overall don't. Um, so, hope you guys enjoyed this review. I'll see you here soon.